Welcome to the Northwest edition of GREENFLEET's Road-to-Zero Roundtable here in Bolton, of course. For those who I haven't met yet, my name is Jill Noel. I've worked in e-mobility and clean transport since about 2012. Worked on a series of EV grid integration projects. I'm a co-founding director of Electric Vehicle Association England and founder of Global Women in EV Day. But I'm here today to support the conversation to flow and to host us today.
Paul Dibb, City of Bradford Metropolitan Council and Fleet Manager for Bradford from since. Been there since 1974. Decarbonisation at the moment at Bradford, I won't say it's disjointed, it's not jointed either. Different departments have got different ideas. When you meet with them, they think they're taking your bit off them. And, we have a clean air, we have an energy team. Stuart does workshop, we must demo every electric vehicle that we can get. We evaluate it, put a proposal forward, no funding, no infrastructure. We have people telling, in other meetings we've got 100 electric vehicles with 20 electric vehicles. We've 850 vehicles on Fleet Road going, 1,750 items, plant equipment, lawnmowers, everything. We had some battery operated ones. And I think with about 6 people off with bad backs now because they're to carry the battery pack for the leaf blowers. And so yeah, bit of a struggle, and my aim today would be take what I can and get our teams jointed up so they're going off at different meetings, coming back with different ideas. The elected members are getting on those then. Why weren't you here? Why weren't you there? We didn't know about it.
Ashley Barnett, so I'm part of the transport team at Lloyds Bank, so Lex Autolease, Tosca and Black Horse are the 3-4 brands, so about 1.2 million cars, vans and everything in between I think that sit under our books. About 250,000 of those are electric, so pure zero emissions. And yeah, I suppose my take today is I think cars is on a journey for the majority of people, and the taxi environment's probably driven that. The next challenge we're trying to face into, because sustainability and our emissions target sits under my remit, is how do we support commercial vehicle customers and what's that challenge? And then from a bank point of view, we're also trying to look at the energy side of that and how do we try to join and simplify that up. And we were talking just then about solar and batteries, so yeah.
I'm Hayley Nixon from Salford City Council. I'm the strategic lead for our zero carbon programme, so work with our fleet team really closely in terms of decarbonising our fleet. We are probably at about 17% of our fleet is now electric. We have around 170 vehicles that we own, and challenges are what we've been doing so far is around the infrastructure requirements, so looking at a phased approach, making sure the infrastructure's in place and grid capacity etc is there to charge our vehicles, solar, carports on the roof, batteries, trying to make sure that we're sort of reinforcing what we're doing. Challenges are scaling up now. We've got a few years coming up where we're going to have to buy quite a number of vehicles, like refuse collection vehicles, etc., which are challenging. So yeah, just looking to get more information about maybe how people have found that.
Mick Johnson, I'm the Environment and Sustainability Lead for Joint Shared Services, so I'm Cheshire Police and Cheshire Fire and Rescue. So I have two very different issues. On the police side, we've very limited action for various reasons, money, power availability, which is going to be one of our major expenditures in the future. On the fire side, I've managed to get infrastructure at every single location. I think 37% of our non-blue light fleet is now electric. The reason it hasn't increased is because the cost of EV for leasing has gone up recently, so the fleet manager has moved away and moved to hybrids for the next period.
What I've been involved in the last year is this setting up of the National Energy System Operator, the NESO and architect of the energy system, and they have recently published their Regional Energy Strategic Plan. That's a document about have we got the whole system we need, gas and electric, for the future. National Grid used to do that scenario modelling. Now it's supposed to become bottom up from the regions, and we had a rush last summer to throw some investment need into the pot. They wanted to know where we needed the grid invested in future. So some councils would have put in their depot charging plans into that pot. They might have handed it to their energy network provider. So there's a map showing just how much more grid investment we need. And the energy networks will be putting in very big bids for growth of the local DNO networks. They'll be doing that on the basis of an increase in electrification to a national target, but also hotspots where there's going to be very constrained grid and you might need to go in with larger style substations.
So the depot charging scheme was announced, I think it was on the 25th of March, £170 million available to fund the installation of charging infrastructure at fleet depots. So that's 28 million of that will be allocated to the 2026-27 financial year. Projects will have until the end of March 2027 to complete the works. The application window, which is the important bit here as well, closes on the 30th of June this year. However, a further window is expected to open later this year, running from the end of October through to the end of January 2027. So I hope so. So some of you may have taken advantage of the pilot depot charging scheme that had very short windows and caused a bit of frustration amongst some organisations, which was very understandable. There's also the zero emission truck and van grant, so that was announced on the same day a couple of weeks ago. So there are various grant caps across 4 weight-based categories.
The actual process is a minefield as well. It's a horrendous document to fill in.
Highlighted that in terms of planning permission is one of the big issues that we've found, and also making it simpler for those grid connections is going to be a key issue around that, I think.
Because in terms of public sector,
Yeah.
you know, I'm going to be able to have very minimal spend on a project until I've got an award letter, and then it always drags out a little, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then it's like go, go, go. It's like, well, there's not enough time. You might need full planning permission.
On the van grants, are they just for purchase of vehicles, or are they tied in with any other leasing companies for lease of vehicles? Because the reason I asked that is I'll be open about it. So my brother-in-law and my brother sort of own the delivery group, and so obviously they do a lot, so I'll speak to them from time to time, and so I'll give them some advice, but they lease all of the vehicles, they don't buy anything.
So you can get like
we'll
portable chargers, so you don't have to do all the groundworks, you just buy a load of more portable chargers. That's what we were looking to do. But
Within the council, they're really good at stuff like this, highways team, and when funding becomes available, they'll go, right, we've got this project here, bosh, done, and they'll kind of thing, and they tend to get exactly what we need. In relation to, I think we've got nothing oven ready, so to speak, to actually kind of chuck out into this. And I think I got made aware of the last grant scheme, and I had about a month, and there absolutely no way in a million years would have been able to turn something around in that short period of time. And I think even looking at the timeframes here, between now and June, to actually come up with a workable plan for something like a local authority or a police force or pretty much anybody for that matter, I think it is pretty much impossible unless you've got something already there.
There's a lot of discussion at the moment around sharing depot charging between different organisations, so not public, but for commercial purposes.
But there are challenges around that because most of the sites have, police and fire and councils.
People coming on.
That's my issue. The sensitive sites, and so you can't just have people just randomly coming in and out. They are secure sites, and they're secure sites for a reason. And again, these are, I think, what happens in these when these grants, there's people in Westminster or wherever, they'll just go, right, there you go, and they're not understanding of what's going on round tables like this and the challenges.
Yeah. Just at our site, we've just done an install of charge points for at our main depot, but we've not had to do any civils. We've run everything along the wall, and all the chargers are attached to walls, so that we've not had to dig. So that's sort of one way to keep the costs down. So there's sort of cable trays from the substation round, etc. But it's sort of kept that civils cost down and allowed us to.
Because of the weight of the new vehicle, they had to put all the new railings in and absolutely everything else. So what OEMs are finding is that their investment in the end product isn't being realised in that second-hand market in any way, shape or form. The ZEV mandate we're going to miss by miles.
I think to return to...
Yeah, we're on track, aren't we? Because thanks to the flexibilities, we are actually on track at the moment to meet the Z mandate.
For certain elements of it, but not, I mean, vans, not a chance. Not a chance.
I think to return to the point about government policy and government action and how that's affecting the market, I think that's exactly what's caused your problem, is that the benefit in kind incentive and the VAT incentives, capital gains tax, corporation tax incentives to businesses and company car drivers created that sort of artificial demand at the front end for the brand new ones. But we don't have any incentive or consumer confidence in the 3 and 4 year old ones that are coming off hire, do we?
I think again, it's. I think the media plays an awful lot of a part in that. Battery degradation's been mentioned a lot.
But that's not true.
If you look at the data doesn't stack that up. But a lot of people believe their mate John down the pub and everything that they see on the news. And again, I think it's that there's a culture shift that needs to happen. You're right. The BIC bit did play a part. Was definitely played a part in cars taking off. It's definitely beneficial. I had a conversation with people last week around the rising price of fuel, and I think again Auto Trader have come out in the last couple of weeks that the interest in BEVs has skyrocketed. The bit that I'm dying to see is the interest bit's gone up. So by default, surely if demand is increasing, then you'd expect to start to see prices push up as well, because that's a natural supply and demand economic. Once I start to see that, then I'll be happier. Demand going up, for me, that's neither here nor there. You can need to see that natural, again, economic flow through of pushing the prices up, and that's the bit I think we're going to be a good couple of months away from seeing that flow into the market, but it's complex.
So our council declared a climate emergency in 2019 with a commitment on paper to go net zero by 2038. Since then, there's been kind of different. There's now a different, sort of overarching policy called Progress and Unity, which is still, it still falls into, but it's gone quiet. The only people that are driving, the kind of drive for electrification and decarbonisation is a small team of, sort of climate team and, fleet services. We've done the same as Bradford. We've opted, so all our, the fleet vehicles, we've got electric. We've got an electric. We've got electric charge points outside our depot. Only 7 kilowatts. We've only got 4, and we run a fleet of 10 electric vehicles plus demos and everything else off them. So it's a very challenging kind of thing. And what we're kind of trying to do is get the buy-in at a high level. Now, in some places that's great. Rochdale Council, the deputy leader is her portfolio, and actually they've got solar farms and they've got kind of a lot more further down the line than us. But actually, trying to get traction from directors, down and to kind of acknowledge the funding differential, between kind of what it's going to mean. Is nigh on impossible, or it feels nigh on impossible. If I've wrote one paper, I've wrote several papers.
What we've seen across the industry over the last few years is manufacturers effectively just editing existing platforms, right? And that's where you then see the payload challenge, because you can't just take an engine out, replace it with batteries and keep the same payload. So what we've really seen to struggle with the LCV specifically is very few ground up vehicle programs, because it's expensive. Like we had that example of Nissan, right? Retooling factories. So I think one of the biggest challenges we're seeing, and this isn't just LCVs, we saw this in the car world as well, was examples like you gave, which are negative. It didn't fit for purpose, it didn't work, and like you said, I think you used the term poison water, right? It's then gives this negative impact of the whole technology, whereas really, to put it bluntly, it's a bad experience of a specific vehicle for the wrong use case. And I think what we've all got to be responsible for is making sure that we don't poison the water because of the wrong vehicle in the wrong place, rather than saying the technology inherently doesn't work. Now, Flexis specifically, we're looking at this from that point of view, which is how can we build vehicles from the ground up to meet these challenges. So, for example, our vehicles still have a 1.2 payload, even though their total vehicle is still under 3.5, and that is with a real-world range of the sort of 250-mile remit. The other element is, I think we've mentioned here, it's like we had vehicles range-wise isn't really the issue anymore. It's now that infrastructure piece. And so in terms of that next generation, it's about having that ability to genuinely recharge in 20 minutes. And that's where the 800-volt architecture, which is something that we've seen in cars for about 3 or 4 years now. But to date, there's no van on the road that does that, whereas that is ours off the ground. So I think it's finding that middle balance of, like we say, putting the right vehicle in the right place, but also making sure that we don't just look for the biggest range. You want to find the range that also can be recharged quickly. Like you gave the example there, it's 10 o'clock at night, they didn't plug it in at the depot, I've got to get somewhere, okay, I'll quickly get to that rapid charger, genuine 20 minutes while maybe the driver grabs a coffee and a drink back on the road, rather than today, I won't name names, but an ICE platform vehicle that charges at 80 kilowatts. That example, he's going to be an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So what do your vans charge at? What's the maximum rapid charge?
So they'll do 240 kilowatts, which, I mean, in context, I think that most vans on the market today are a sub 150.
Not enough of those charges though, is there either? There's not enough of those charges that'll do 150, 200, 300 kilowatt charges.
Negativity we got as well, we had a fuel card supplier and it was on the 3+2. But we looked at it and we thought, well, these guys they live out of the district, by the time they've gone home and come back to work, the van's flat, they're taking another van. So that one man's using 2 vans. So we're going to get around this. So we didn't offer the extension for years 3, 4 and 5, because it was a 3+2. Changed the fuel card to one that does EVs, and they can go to these like Instavolt and all the others. Yeah. Totally different perception now on EVs. Love them because they can be there. They're charged up in half an hour. He goes into Costa, whereas before we were waiting 2 hours sat in his van, not getting any work done, and that's just through changing fuel card.
What about the drivers themselves? So when speaking with the drivers, when they've switched maybe from a diesel van to an electric van, how are the drivers thinking about and feeling about making the switch?
So I've when I was at Micros, I sat in with some home shopping drivers, so the Asdas and the Tesco's, and to be fair, they were absolutely loving them. They really liked them. So from my perspective, I'm seeing some really positive feelings about that. There's that, you like say, the range anxiety is no longer there. I'm an EV driver, I don't have range anxiety.
So just to share some of our challenges, they're probably quite basic, but they are challenges nonetheless. We're really struggling internally with resource. We've got a car parking manager who's willing to help, but it's not her responsibility. We've got an energy manager that feels a little bit the same. We've got an estates manager, and nobody feels like it's their responsibility to deliver the whole programme. It's not mine either, but I'm the stick that's trying to poke everybody to come together. And it's just the project management of it I'm finding quite mind-blowing. You know, normally if we want some kind of service to be provided to the university, we'd write a brief on what it was that we wanted, we'd put it out to tender, we'd have a few quotes and off we go, you know, but we don't know what we want. I can't even get to the bottom of how many vehicles we've got, what the vehicles are. We've got about 20 people that have all individually gone and bought vehicles. Some of them are already electric, they're being charged with a cable out of a window, you know, and it's like, good Lord.
Ashley's right, you know, you're not alone, and yes, there's a whole network of people here, and way beyond this room, that just love talking about EVs and fleets and stuff like that are absolutely willing to help. Are you measuring carbon emissions because you want to, or simply because you're required to do it?
customers want us to do it as well. They want to know what their carbon. So every time we do a delivery to them, they want to know what that carbon impact for them is.
Yes.
So we've got a whole ESG department that do it. We've created a tool that does it for our customers as well, so they can log in, put their deliveries in, it'll give them the carbon.
And how does JAMA support emissions reporting?
Not at the moment. That's why I'm asking the question. Having in a previous life, we were getting asked a lot of those questions around kind of the scope 1, 2, 3 emissions reports and things like that, and being able to get the data. But also, that's why I asked the question around the charging infrastructure, because we were asked the question there as well. So it's something that we're looking at. The issues again is around data and getting the visibility. I know there is some open EV data standards on the charges, but I'm not sure that you're going to have to kind of connect to your Zap maps and things like that to pull your data.
I worked for Just Park for a few years, and I was brought in to bring that to Just Park because, quite simply, they're renting out driveways. Why did we also rent out chargers? And the amount of edge cases was what killed it, because it's exactly that. It's okay, I'm happy to rent mine out, but it can't be during these times and these times. And actually, I don't want to sit and have some random car in my driveway, because what if I'm breastfeeding? We've got the most insane amount of edge cases. And my general summary was, it's a good little addition to have, but it's never going to be a game changer to enable the next 25% adoption. But I do think, like all these things, it's adding in elements, and together you get a solution. And I think that the terrace house situation is challenging for many, many reasons. One being you can't guarantee the space. But that again comes to your earlier point you made at the start of this conversation, which is if public charging was cheaper, it wouldn't be as much of an issue, right?
Got an influx of really, and they are good quality cars. There's no question about it. The range is there, the quality is there. However, if something goes wrong and they need a part, they haven't got the supply of parts within the UK. MG were probably a little bit ahead of the curve on that, because they do have a part solution for aftermarket here. BYD, J-Root, Armada don't at present. We are talking to them about that. Cherry, you'll probably have heard they're about to start over in Liverpool, which is great for the region, I have to say, from a job perspective and going forward in terms of that EV transition. But again, the Chinese don't understand aftermarket at the moment, so it's a real challenge for us and our team. The issue that the issue that Manchester are going to have is technicians. So out of the 9 technical colleges within the region, only 2 of them offer the technical courses for EHGV and EDV technician. So how do we bring in the people that can service these?
Hayley?
Yeah, I think we've had like panel vans and box vans for about 5-6 years now, and recently in the past 2 years gone to 3.5 tonne tippers. We've got 4 mini sweepers, an RCV, we've got a bereavement vehicle, which is like a pickup truck, which they did have a tipper, and we've been trialling all different vehicle types, anything we can get our hands on. So before choosing any of those vehicles, we sort of had 3 different RCVs in, we had 3 different types of mini sweeper in. We made sure that they were tested on all the routes, made sure they're operational, and could do the majority. And to be fair, the RCV that we chose in the end, there was just one route that was slightly on the edge, but other than that, did every route that we had. We tried it in the winter, we tried it in the summer, we made sure that we sort of tried everything that we could, and that the drivers and everyone were happy with the vehicles, and it sort of helped with that transition, because they could see how they worked, they could see how they charged, they could see how they operated, and they were happy with them when we then did buy them. So from an operational perspective, not had many issues at all. We've just gone with new chargers as well, so we've replaced all our old ones. We're all on the same charger at the depot now, so then the level of data that we're getting, knowing when things are charging, how much charge is taken, how many miles to do it, all of that sort of data now is flowing through, and then that's going to hopefully help our business case for scaling up.
And so I suppose I'd just like to see some stability, and probably that downward trend of EV prices from a second-hand perspective to start going up as this kind of fuel shock kind of having a positive impact, and probably less negative media.
I would say similar to Ashley in terms of the public persona, the FUD reduced. I think we've seen just across this table that once people drive EVs, they love them. And so it's so frustrating when you have that knowledge to see in the public sphere the opposite seems to still get touted. I think I saw a post the other day saying everyone wants to give their EV back once they've got them. And it's literally the opposite. But so I'd like to see that. And then from my selfish point of view in my role, I want to see depot charging become less of a barrier, because it's frustrating when you've got a great product and you're not able to sell it because nothing to do with the product, but the infrastructure isn't there. So
I'll also go with the less negative publicity. In fact, some good news stories.
Yes.
And also consistency and interoperability of publicly available charging networks.
Skills, like we said, training and skills for this area that we know we're going to need, and we're going to have a bottleneck for that. And some larger vehicle types, large sweepers, 4.5 tonne tippers and above would be nice. Demos, if we could get them.
Well, I'm probably speaking on behalf of all software providers. I think it's just like data consistency and data standards. We're having to integrate with hundreds of providers where ideally we just got doing it once, so we can provide the value to our users, and cheaper public charging costs as well. It'd be nice.
From our perspective, it is, it's, as I said before to George and the guys when we're doing the video, for us it's really important to get views from you guys so we can take that back into the UK government. They do listen, as a body we do get listened to. So for us it's really important that we do sit down with you guys, and if there's anything, any information that I can help with for any of you, just feel free to ask, no problem.
I think cheaper energy costs in general is what we need to find somewhere and a way to do that, because we've seen such a massive increase that is so damaging to everything that's green. And you could say, well, it's because we've got green energy, but actually it's counter to green energy, because most of the green energy solutions require you to use more electric, and the cost of it has gone scandalous in many respects. I mean, it's just over 10 years ago I was paying 6.7 pence a unit, at home, and it's like, and it's come down a little bit, but it was nearly 30 pence not long ago. It's crazy. How can we be competitive? How can we actually run a sustainable economy when we've got energy prices at the levels that they are today?
So I'd like from the top government to be clear, concise in relation to what the expectations are. Be realistic if need be. From a personal job perspective, I'd like that same clarity and direction of travel from my leadership, from the council's elected members, from the executive branch, that provide us, that allow me to put a strategy in place that can deliver, which is something that we can do, over a period of time, carbon neutral fleet, and we can do that. And I think, sort of with the will and the right direction of travel, it can be done.